welcome. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man, one woman, in their time plays many parts. And of course that's from Shakespeare. So welcome and thank you for gathering today to celebrate June's life, to give thanks for the things that you have shared in common, and as we gather to say our last farewells and support the family. In this time of remembrance and celebration of June's life, we're particularly aware of her family. So to Ross, June's beloved soulmate, the man who's made her so happy, also to the family members, to Susan and Peter, to Graham and Debs, and to Brian and Sue. And the grandchildren, Wendy, Mark, Daniel, Victoria, Sarah, Taryn, Jaya, Jess, Amy, Caden and James, and also your partners, and Renee and Brian's extended family, and to the great-grandchildren and the great-great-grandchildren. On behalf of all those gathered today, we uphold you with our love and extend our condolences to you. I'm Jenny, and it's a privilege to lead this service, and I want to thank Ross and the family members who were able to spend some time with me and so shared some of June's stories with me. Stories of a woman who was extremely talented. She loved drama, she loved music, and I believe she's lived her life well, more of which we'll hear about soon. Now, before I continue the more formal part of the service, I'm going to share a little about the proceedings today. Following the service, you may say your last farewells to June, and we've got a wee basket of bits and pieces that you can place on the casket as you say your last farewells. And then you're warmly invited to share in light refreshments, and they will be served in the lounge area. Following the light refreshments, for those who are able to, who'd like to spend some more time with the family catching up, I think we're going to Sarah and Justin's home, and just check out with the family how to find their home if you're not sure. Today you'll be very welcome to share some of your own memories, some of the stories, some of the tribute that you may want to give to June today. This is a time to celebrate her life, and I know she's had an impact on many people's lives, and that we're richer by far for her contribution to your own lives. So we'd love to hear some of those stories, some of those memories and times that you've shared with her. Today we want to acknowledge family and extended family and friends who have been unable to be here. In particular today we remember some of the family who are living overseas. We also want to welcome those who are viewing this service right now as it happens, as we're live streaming the service for them. And so to Wendy and Alistair, who are on a ferry between France and England, to Jane, to Mark, and he's watching in West Australia, to David and George. So let us keep these people and others who've been unable to be here today in our thoughts, in our prayers, because we know that they too will be grieving at the news of June's death. Also want to acknowledge and thank many of you who've travelled to be here today for this celebration of June's life. We wish you a safe journey home and thank you for your love and devotion in joining the family and friends here today. I know for a lot of people it would have been a half-hour trip turned into 2 hours, just the time of the year, so be careful on the way home. I'm very aware that we gathered here today represent many, many more people who knew and valued June as a person during her life. And I'm aware also that June's death will bring to remembrance other loved ones who have passed on before her. And so may this service bless all those sacred ties that bind us to those who have gone before. Today is a day for remembering. It's a day to thank other people and acknowledge those who have assisted and been there for June, particularly over this last wee period of time when she's experienced more health issues. The assistance and care that the staff at Te Whānau have provided was outstanding. The family spoke very highly to me of the brilliant care that June received, and so we extend our appreciation and thanks to all those staff involved in caring for June. They really are dedicated people. Also want to acknowledge Ross's part and the family's part in caring for June as well. So family and friends, we've come together today to remember and to celebrate June's life, to commend her to God's keeping, and to comfort those who mourn with our sympathy and with our love. On occasions like this, it's never easy to find words that say what we're feeling and thinking. As we reflect back on June's life today, we know that she wouldn't want us to be sad for too long, but rather gather the beautiful memories that we have, see the legacy that she's left, and to use how June lived out her life as a role model of what is possible in our own lives, particularly when we use our gifts well, as I believe June did. So let's just spend a moment in prayer and offer this occasion, and then we'll say together the Lord's Prayer. So let us pray. God, our comforter, you are a refuge and a strength for us, a helper close at hand in times of distress. Help us so to hear the words of our faith, that our fear is dispelled, our loneliness eased, and our hope reawakened. May your Holy Spirit lift us above our natural sorrow to the peace and light of your constant love. As we gather to farewell June today, we thank you for all the goodness, beauty, and trust in June's life that fulfilled your purpose for her and makes our lives richer for her presence. We thank you for love given and love received, for defeats mastered and tasks well done, for faithful friendship, and for all the graces of personality, character, and spirit that endeared June to us. We remember with compassion her family at this time and lift them before you. Help us to keep supporting the family and friends and one another. Give us wisdom to grieve well. Give us hope that death is not the end. Be with us today and all days, we pray. Amen. And with faith and hope, we say together, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those that trespass against us. Save us from temptation. Deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. A person's death brings that person's life to a close, but it's not the end of that person's influence. That continues in the people who've been touched by that life. And I know that June's touched many people's lives over the years. In every personal relationship, we're continually giving and receiving something from each other. I believe that as we reflect on the life that has been lived, on June's life, that we're challenged to reflect afresh on the life that we are living and the legacy that we're leaving behind. So we're going to spend some time hearing some of the more significant happenings and events in June's life, some of the activities, some of the interests that gave her a sense of meaning and fulfilment. But perhaps most importantly, the personal qualities about June, the qualities which we loved, appreciated and admired. We're going to start by sharing a brief outline of June's story, and then at least the family I think are going to speak first, Graham and the rest of the family, and then I'm going to read Ross's tribute. And then if other family members want to speak, and then we'll move to anyone else who'd like to share some stories and memories. Family.
Hi everybody.
You might need to come back here behind the mic. Thanks, guys.
Can you hear okay? Everybody here? Yep. Hi, I'm Graham. A lot of people don't know me. I was around in the beginning, South Islander for the last few years. My mum has been a pretty amazing woman to me from growing up in the 60s when we came to New Zealand. She was, she was always there. Busy in every way, but always there. And first of all, I have to say about family and the three sisters, and it's all evolved around those three women. And we all had to get together for the pickling, the bottling, huge missions, depending what time of year it was, we'd be off. And it all meant going with trailers. It wasn't just bootloads, it was trailers, and we'd all have to get together at one of the auntie's house, and there was always fruit, berries, you name it. We had to preserve it, bottle it, pickle it, and that was it. And then after that there was knitting. Even if there was a TV on, and TV just come on then, it was always the knitting. We always had jerseys we loved and hated, to this day. And my mum was so good to me when she was baking. She'd say, "Good day for baking today, don't need to go to school." And I'd go, "Love you, Mum, thank you very much." And we wouldn't bake much, but we'd have a great time. And if there was something to happen, something exciting, it was, we'll go and do that instead. So it was never boring. Still to this day, it never gets boring with Mum. I think everyone who knows her will know that part about her. And anyway, for the last 20 years she's been with Ross, and I haven't seen much of her, but man, has she been busy again. And see a little bit of her when she's fleeting past on one of her many journeys somewhere, but no, for me, my special time was coming over from England and growing up in Wellington, and a much more peaceful time, I think, when everyone had vegetable gardens and we all knew the neighbours and the guys down the road and everyone. And coming from Lyndon, which was a very small little town, I think I knew everybody. And I think Mum knew everybody, and that's how we never really went down streets, you went through yards. And it was just the way we were, and it's all got lost a bit now, but no, we had a great time. And then Mum was always with me later on, and I remember one incident, she actually came to film me playing soccer. I was in an important soccer game, and the only time in my life I scored 2 goals, and Mum missed both of them because she was so exciting. So I got to see the video, and it was, woo! Missed the goal, but, you know, the thought was there. But anyway, no, she's been an amazing woman. And I'd also just like to thank Taryn for the flowers, and Ross for the garden, for the flowers, amazing. And Mum, and Kathy's garden as well, sorry. No, fantastic. Anyway, I'm starting to get emotional here.
Right. Yeah.
I'll fall over here.
I will, really.
Okay.
Well, my mum embraced technology, and she started with texts and emails. She found this helpful as she had a significant hearing loss. Later, as hearing aids improved, it was Facebook messaging, iMessaging, Skype, plus emails and texts. Sometimes it was hard to find the messenger or answer her call, as it had to find out what she was calling on, or whether it was a real call or an accidental one. But definitely Facebook kept her in touch with all her descendants and friends, and even in faraway places. She kept tabs on all of us. It's fitting that the celebration of Mum's life is being streamed live. It's the next step up from Facebook. So thanks to Mark for arranging this. Mum will be impressed. Her final performance is streaming live. That this is going to Mark and his Dunga bunk, which is a bunk room in the back blocks of Western Australia. Wendy, George and Alistair chugging across the English ferry. Peter and Sue and family in Hemel Hampstead. Lee in Oxford. Tony on the Sunshine Coast, and goodness knows how many others. And well, I will miss Mum, and I'm sure we'll all miss Mum a lot.
Gosh, my turn. Okay. My mum, Nancy June Thompson, born 7th of June 1928 in Finchley, London, England, was the matriarch of our family. 3 children, 10 grandchildren, 14 great-grandchildren, and 2 great-great-grandchildren. Mum taught me how to laugh. She taught me that life was a good thing and that the struggle was always worth it. That meant everything to me because that's how I live my life, happy and content, enthusiastic and loving. When I was in hospital, these were the traits that I needed, and she always made things okay. Mum had 4 siblings, Len, Violet, Olive and Mary. Mum was the youngest and she looked up to her elders. Len was one of her best friends and I heard about him all the time. One of my earliest memories was when I was in Primer 1, which is young, and my teacher wouldn't let me to go to the bathroom, and I was in the Maori Culture Club, and I wet my pants. And I ran all the way home, nothing wrong with the hips then. Mum hugged me and told me that everything would be okay. It didn't matter that I had wet my pants. Tomorrow's a new day. From 7 onwards, everything was hospitals, but Mum was always there. I was about 15 when I had an osteotomy in Middlemore Hospital in Auckland, and I was in a cast and couldn't move much. I could not bend. Having realised that this would cause problems with fitting into transport, Mum hired a camper van. She drove me from Auckland to Paraparaumu, dropped me off, drove back up to Auckland, got in her own car and drove all the way home. That's 1,740 kilometres in one go. So Mum obviously taught me dedication and commitment as well as everything. Mum moved to New Zealand with Dad in 1961. She travelled a lot of New Zealand. Taupo was one of her favourite places. She also had webbed feet, so it makes sense that 90% of the photos of her are in water. We had a pool at Harold Holt Ave in Napier where many, many hours were spent with family and friends. She was an incredible, healthy eater. She would be the only mum in the world that would have 3 salads and 3 coleslaws in the fridge all at the same time. But she could still polish off 2 litres of ice cream, no problem, and pass that skill on to me. Another thing she passed on to me was passion for music, which was a big part of her life. I've always known her to play the organ. She was an entertainer and she made sure her smile spread to everyone around her. When Mum and Dad moved to Napier, she took up playing the organ. She couldn't read music but was pretty good at playing by ear. There were many organ club parties at Harold Holt Ave, which were happy, happy times. Mum used to buy truckloads of fruit, as Graham said, and would make us pick buckets of fruit in Napier orchards. We used to sit down, de-stone, peel, cut, prepare the fruit with Mum, and she would boil it up in a huge aluminium pot that took up the whole stove top, and then the fruit lasted us all year. There were jars everywhere. Mum has left a huge legacy behind her. This legacy is her huge family and a huge group of friends who are all loving, caring and happy. Every child and grandchild and great-grandchild and great-great-grandchild remembers and loves Nanny, and she made each of them feel special and important. The strength of our family has really shown in the last month. We have come together to make sure that Mum has been happy and content. That's how she made all us feel. Te Whānau Rest Home have been an incredible part of Mum's life. Susan and I were together in the room with Mum. We decided to finally get comfy for the night and think about going to sleep to rest our eyes. We were told to be aware of uncomfortable breathing, so we were listening out for that. But in the end, it was the silence that woke us. The time in between breaths got longer and longer. I had a hand on Mum's shoulder and Susan had a hand on the other shoulder. Mum gave one very calm last breath. So Mum waited for us to relax and then she chose a moment, and that is beautiful. She left us in the most peaceful way and she was happy. So my mum, Nancy June Thompson, passed away 23rd December 2016. Rest in peace, Mum.
Well done. I'd just like to say one more thing. I don't know if you realise this, but it's been a very hard year on entertainers this year, with George Michael and so many more going. So I think it's fitting that Mum's in another universe somewhere playing organ in one hell of a band. Anyway, rest in peace, Mum. Thank you.
Well done. Thanks. This next tribute is so fitting and beautiful, and it's from Ross. So June and Ross, and it's entitled Brief Notes on Our Togetherness, and I think that's such a good heading for it. It happened 20 years ago at the Raumati swimming pool. By chance we were swimming and started chatting about the pool, or the weather, and found we had similar interests and were almost neighbours. So this was the start of frequent swims, coffee, etc. And as it happened, they were both enjoying each other's company. Trips further afield followed, and before long we were jointly planning a partnership with a better future than either had at that particular time. Consequently, not long we were heading north, fielding for a brief stay, then on to Taupo. We spent several years there and loved it, the hot pools and numerous trips to Rotorua, Bay of Plenty, music clubs, fishing and good friends. And then suddenly we felt we missed old friends and family. So we headed south en route, saw an interesting property for sale in Levin and bought it. Renewed old contacts for a few years, and then, yes, back to Kapiti Coast. Old friends were still there, mostly, so full circle, our families were happy and so were we, until June's health started to fail. All in all, we were happy. We were still together and wanted that way, plus closer to family, and June could still be appreciated as the matriarch, a position she never really relinquished. So I suppose you could say we had our cake and were fortunate enough to eat it as well. Thanks, Ross. It was just lovely. And it's been very, very happy years that June and Ross have had together. Is there anyone else in family now who'd like to speak? I think there's some notes from other family members that people are going to read. We got someone following on?
Yeah.
Yep, brilliant. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Daniel. I'm Nancy's favourite grandson. And but my brother Mark, who's in Australia, has sent something he'd like me to read out, so I'll read this. So it's always sad when someone passes, especially when they enjoy every minute of life like Nanny did. I'm sure if it was up to her, she would have included at least another 10 more house moves. Life goes by so quickly, more so the older you get. I have now got to the stage where my work colleagues call me old boy. It's quite amusing when they ask me if I'm on Facebook. No, but my grandmother is. This answer shocked them somewhat. One, I still had a grandmother, and two, she uses Facebook. It's been a real honour to have many clear and wonderful memories from a very young up until now, and can only hope that I can pass on what you have passed on to me. Rest in peace. Love, Mark. Yeah. So, yeah, she will be missed sorely, and I just pretty much feel very privileged, to reach 48 and have, a grandparent, and she was the last, and lots of memory installations with the three Cox sisters. It's a gone by time now, and I just hope that I can, cut and paste those somehow to reinvent that, and like what Mark says, pass it on, pass it forward. She was a dynamic person, very animated, and yeah, rest in peace, Nanny. Yeah.
So I'm Sarah, I'm the favourite granddaughter. And I'm reading this on behalf of my sister Wendy, who's in transition between England and France, or France to England. I would really like to express my condolences to Ross. I would also like to thank you, Ross, for making Nanny so happy. Yours and Nanny's adventures over the last few years, be they cycling, touring the country, or buying houses, they're all an inspiration to all of us. My very first memory of Nanny is a 2-year-old in her house in Linden. I was standing in the hallway and she told me I had now had a baby brother. It is, in fact, my very first memory of anything. And yes, Mark and I did go and stay with her when Daniel was born 18 months later. Nanny was also there when Victoria and Sarah were born, and also later when David and George came along. In fact, I can always remember Nanny being there. Yeah, she was. She was there with the birth of my child too. Evidently, she had to push me back in the birth canal so Mum could deliver me in hospital rather than the ambulance taking her to hospital. Always larger than life and always telling stories, Nanny did not just tell stories with her voice, she used her whole body, and she never let the facts get in the way of a story that needed to be told. Why are you laughing? One of Nanny's most famous stories is about during the war, in the order to save her foot that had been crushed by a tank trap. The doctor replaced part of the leg bone with a dog bone. Nanny explained, without the dog bone, her foot would be amputated, and that would have not been able to roller skate again. David and George and I were having lunch one day with both Nanny and Auntie Mary, and George asked Auntie Mary whether it was true that Nanny did have a dog bone in her foot. Auntie Mary said, "No, of course she didn't. Where'd you hear such nonsense? It's definitely not a dog bone, but a pig bone." That was in Nanny's ankle. Nanny said, "No, it was definitely a dog bone." And so they argued for this for the next wee while. I would just like to say, on behalf of David, George, Alistair, me, thank you, Nanny, for wonderful stories, your sense of humour, and your infinite ability to look on the brighter side. I know that wherever you are, you will be brighter placed because of your presence. My dear Nanny, I will miss you terribly, but because of over the years you have given me so much of yourself, I know that part of you will always remain with me.
Any other family before we... Anyone would like to share stories and memories? Thank you.
My name's Arnold. I just want to extend my deepest sympathy, condolences to all the family and the extended family, and to Ross. My connection with June goes back to, and her family goes back to when I was a paper boy in Linden and Mexted Terrace. I used to deliver Olive's newspaper. Then I got to know Mary very well. She was a mentor for me, and she helped keep me off the wrong track in life. She was a real influence over me. And I met June, first of all, when I was in the Tower Linden Drama Club, and I got to know her then, but then she went to different parts of the country and I lost contact with her. But then when she came back to Kapiti, she forged a close friendship with Mum, and they were from the same part of London. And June was the most wonderful, marvellous friend to Mum. When she became sick, there were two people who were very, very caring for her, and they went out of their way. There was Lynn, who brought me here today, and then there was June. And June would do so much for Mum. She'd come and visit her when she couldn't do much for herself. She'd take her out. She'd go for meals and all sorts of things. And I remembered too that June had friends in Taupo who became unwell, and it was no problem for her to just get into the car, drive up to Taupo and come back. She was that sort of person. She was a very giving person. She was very hospitable, and there were many times that we were invited to her home, or one of her many homes. You just never knew when she was going to. In fact, one of the last ones we went to and then said, "Oh, we're moving back to Levin," and that was from Waikanai, and she always made a very welcoming home. And I endorse what Susan said about technology. She was a thoroughly modern nanny. I'm on Facebook and I hardly know how to use it, but she embraced all these things. She was into texting. The first text that I got from her, she tried to use text language. I couldn't understand a word, but I thought she did really. I thought for a grandmother to be able to do this sort of thing, it's quite rare. I have really many, many happy memories of June, and I'm sure like all of you, we've been thinking of her, and you've been in our thoughts and prayers over this last week. And I know it's a very sad time of the year, but I'm just glad you've got each other to comfort each other and to keep things going. It's very rare for me to get up at a funeral service and speak, but this is one time when I just sort of felt I had to do it, and it's ad lib. I just felt that June's been a really wonderful lady, and I know that she will live on through the following generations. I know she was very proud of her children and grandchildren. I often used to hear about them, even though I hadn't met them, and I know that that she will indeed live through all of you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Anyone else like to share?
I'm Debs, I'm June's daughter-in-law. Now, what can I say about June? I know that June weaves magic around people. I've seen it all my life. I've been with GT about 30-something years now. Anyway, she can light up a room. Of all the people that could ever live a life, I think June has done that. I think she never wasted a minute of her time. She loved everyone she met, and she looked after and loved every child that has descended from her. I'm very proud to have known an incredible woman, and to know Olive and to know Mary is to know the true meaning of a woman that can create and give life and nourishment and create homes. And I think, as Daniel said, we will not see the like of these women in the future unless we bring that to our own generations and continue that. And I just know that that spirit is out there somewhere causing havoc. We'll miss you, June.
On Facebook and Instagram.
Any other tribute? Have I got anyone else following this gentleman?
I'm Jeremy. I'm sometimes known as Grandy to June's great-grandchildren, and I was first married to Susan, and I like to say to June, thank you for being who you were. She was a very giving person. She took on Susan and myself when we were first married to put us up in her home, hers and Don's. Of course, Don was there too. And I don't know if she would have done it if she'd known what she was in for, because I was quite an arrogant young man at the time. And we got into some almighty rows, but you'd hardly believe it with the meek and mild person that I am today. She was a very giving person. I remember her giving me up in Napier a huge bunch of chocolate a huge cake of chocolate. It would have been about, well, twice the size of that, I suppose, knowing that I had an addiction for chocolate, and she just wanted to see how long it would take me to finish it off. It took me about an hour, I suppose, and I came in green-gilled, and we all had a laugh about it, or I did the next day when I'd recovered. She was a brilliant actress. I always remember her saying how she acted with Murray Melvin, who was a actor in The Taste of Honey, a British film that had a small success, I suppose. But and one of our great joys of acting was to see Sarah and myself, my daughter Sarah and myself, and June in the Course Actors Show, which was a play held in Levin where everything went wrong, and she was just brilliant in that performance, as she was in so many others that she'd done. She was a bold person too. She would go where other people would fear to tread, and I always remember, as does Rona, suddenly this person at our wedding coming up with a camera between us and the altar and taking a video of us. Everybody was sort of astounded, but I tell you what, it was the only video that showed us face on, because the video was at the back of the church, and so thank you, June, for that. I thanked her for the video afterwards. I had the pleasure of knowing June in later years, and and Ross, of course, and coming to our family functions, and it was a real privilege to see how they continued to relate so well. She was a young person, though she managed to get to 88. So I have the pleasure of saying, well, I've got the last word here, June. Thank you very much for being a wonderful person in my life. Thank you.
Any other memories? Well, close friends are truly life's treasures. Sometimes they know us better than we know ourselves. With gentle honesty, they are there to guide us, to support us, to share our laughter and our tears. Their presence reminds us that no matter what, we are not alone. I believe that June's presence will endure, particularly for those who are going to miss her the most. From time to time, I'm sure that we will bring to mind June's qualities, her integrity, her own brand of wisdom, her steadfast friendship, and her enduring love. At a time like this, we reflect on her determination and the use that she put her gifts to, and that she's shared with us as we've heard. I believe June's story is really unique, as June had very special qualities. She was a wonderful friend to have in your life, as shown today. She was a gentle, caring woman. She was a talented woman, and her work and interests were wide and varied. June, you've left us so many good memories. You've lived your life well. And though June has departed from you, she will continue to live on in those memories that you hold. A couple of days ago when I met with the family, we wanted to find a reading, a poem, something that would reflect well June's life. And what we decided to use were some lovely words that we felt reflected how she lived her life, and these wonderful qualities that we'll hold on to, I believe, forever. And I'd also like to think that in many ways this is the message that June would want to leave you today. Dear friends, I go, but do not weep. I've lived my life so full, so deep. Throughout my life I gave my best. I earned my keep. I've earned my rest. I never tried to be great or grand. I tried to be a helping hand. If I helped in a team, if I helped on my own, I was more than repaid by good friends I have known. And if I went the extra mile, I did it with pleasure. It was all worthwhile. If I brightened your path, then let it be a small contribution from my loved ones and me. But mostly, I cherish the family I knew, in a bond never ending, so precious, so true. Now, sadly, I leave you and travel alone with such beautiful memories that forever will be the way I hope you'll remember me. We've taken time today to recall, to cherish some of June's journey. As we've recalled the influence of her presence among us, we've done so with a chuckle and with tears. And we've done so, I believe, with thankful hearts and minds. So we're going to spend a few moments giving thanks in our own hearts for all that June's life has meant for you. And as we do this, we're going to play some favourite music and also view some family photos, which I'm sure will extend even more our understanding of June's story, the things that she was passionate about other than water. So let's take time to do that now.
Say goodbye, my own true lover, as we sing a lover's song. How it breaks my heart to leave you. Now the carnival is gone. High above, the dawn is waking, and my tears are falling rain. For the carnival is over, we may never meet again. Like a drum, my heart was beating, and your kiss was sweet as wine. But the joys of love are fleeting, for Pierrot and Columbine. Now the harbor light is calling. This will be our last goodbye. Though the carnival is over, I will love you till I die. Like a drum, my heart was beating, and your kiss was sweet as wine. But the joys of love are fleeting,
Elizabeth Kubler-Ross says that while the experience of grief is difficult and slow, it can also be enriching. The most beautiful people that we know are those who have known defeat, have known suffering, have known struggle, and have known loss, and have found their ways out of the depths. These people have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep, loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen. Let us pray as we commend June to God's keeping. O Lord, support us through all the hours of life's day, until the shadows lengthen, the evening comes, and the busy world is hushed. The fever of life is over, and our work is done. Then, Lord, in your mercy, grant us a safe lodging, a holy rest, and peace at the last. And so now we offer June back into your arms. We commend her to God's judgment and mercy, to God's forgiveness, grace, and love. This we ask through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Would you please stand for the committal? Nancy June Thompson. Your life we honour, your departure we accept, your memory we cherish. In grief at your death, but in gratitude for your life, and for the privilege of sharing it with you, we give you thanks. And so now we commit your body to be cremated, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Rest now at the end of your days. Your work is done. So June, go from this world in peace. Make your journey to be with your forebears. Your stories will be told and retold. You will be remembered. Go in peace. And if you who knew June can learn from her life, if you can profit by her example, if you can live a little better for having known her, then this will give continuing purpose to her life and be a living memorial to her. So may you find comfort, richness, and example in your memories. May you find support and strength in your love for one another, and may you find peace in your hearts. May the love of friends, the radiance of memory, and the power of love fill us with courage, strength, and peace, now and always. It is in the spirit of love that we have gathered. It is in the spirit of love that we depart. Amen.
There's a ship lies rigged and ready in the harbour. Tomorrow for old England she sails, far away from your land of endless sunshine, to my land full of rainy skies and gales. And I shall be aboard that ship tomorrow, though my heart is full of tears at this farewell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. For you are beautiful, and and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. I heard there's a wicked war a-blazing, and the taste of war I know so very well. Even now I see the foreign flag a-raising, their guns on fire as we sail into hell. I have no fear of death, it brings no sorrow, but how bitter will be this last farewell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. Though death and darkness gather all about me, and my ship be torn apart upon the sea, I shall smell again the fragrance of these islands in the heaving waves that brought me once to thee. And should I return safe home again to England, I shall watch the English mist roll through the dell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. There's a ship lies rigged and ready in the harbor. Tomorrow for old England she sails, far away from your land of endless sunshine, to my land full of rainy skies and gales. And I shall be aboard that ship tomorrow, though my heart is full of tears at this farewell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. I heard there's a wicked war a-blazing, and the taste of war I know so very well. Even now I see the foreign flag a-raising, their guns on fire as we sail into hell. I have no fear of death, it brings no sorrow, but how bitter will be this last farewell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. For you are beautiful, and I have loved you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. Though death and darkness gather all about me, and my ship be torn apart upon the sea, I shall smell again the fragrance of these islands in the heaving waves that brought